Hello everyone, and welcome back to Season 1 of my Let's Play series. You have joined episode 22, and we are still working towards expanding Britannia, but in order to do that, I'm going to need to increase our power supply. I've already done a little bit of the work. I've created a few more of these oil generators. I have let them run out of the crystallized oil they have been burning. And as you can see, I'm almost out of power in my capacitor bank. So what I'm going to do is we are basically going to recreate this setup. And since I wasn't able to create this setup on camera the last time, or at least when I created this one to begin with, which I did borrow from the internet, just by the way. I did not come up with this design on my own. I'm going to show you guys on camera exactly how I was able to build it. What we're going to want to do is we're almost going to want to reverse this because of the way I'm going to set it up. Sometimes I'll actually set these up side by side, but because of how I've organized my basement this time, I'm probably going to want to reverse this setup. The fluid collector here is going to empty into a fluid placer, which I'm going to put, I want to say, right here. So let me see if I've got a block handy. I do. I can pop that right there. And what I'm going to want to do, hopefully I've got some, and I don't, I forgot to grab them. Well, hopefully I've got enough power left in the grid to grab this stuff. Let's see, I'll need some of those enhanced fluid conduits. There we go. And right about here is where I'm going to want to place my fluid collector. That's not exactly how I wanted to set that. Try that again. There we go. Behind the collector, I'm going to want this scanner, just like so. And then we're going to want a liquid monitor, because we're going to want to monitor the stuff that's in this fluid placer right here. So that's the basic setup right there. Fluid placer, fluid collector, and a scanner. Now to craft these, you're going to need to make an auto placer first. With the fluid placer, for instance, you need an auto placer and 2 empty buckets. So to do the auto placer, you're going to need a basic coil, which I've shown you how to craft many times, and the Palace crystal, which you get by dropping lapis in front of the atomic reconstructor, and once you hit it with that laser, you get the Palace crystal. So that wasn't too bad. And then to get the collector, we needed to make this auto breaker first, which is a void crystal, which you get by dropping coal in front of the atomic reconstructor, and another one of those basic coils, and any cobblestone. And it was the same for the fluid placer. Then to get the scanner, that was a dropper, which is cobblestone and a piece of redstone. And then you combine that dropper with redstone and a spider eye. And then to get our liquid monitor, that's one of these RF machine frames, which we've talked about, little lapis, some gold nuggets, and some iron. And you combine that with the 2 redstone torches and 2 empty buckets, and that gives us our liquid monitor. I think I'm going to want a piece of cobblestone. I think that's one of the things I didn't grab. So what I'm going to want to do here is place that piece of cobblestone, and I'm also going to want a redstone torch, which I don't believe I grabbed. There we go. I left a lot of these holes in the ground because I wanted you guys to see, how I'm able to run all of this wiring. And I'll explain a lot of these grid cables and power conduits in a little bit. And what we're going to want to do is we want to leave this in deactivation mode, and we want to set this to pulse mode. And you can do that by right-clicking it with a redstone torch. I'm going to hang on to this redstone torch for just a minute because I'm going to want to put another one of these precision droppers, and I'm going to need to set that in pulse mode also. Once I've done that, this torch is going to go on the piece of cobblestone right here because that helps control this fluid collector. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get this redstone circuit built, and we're going to place that one block behind the scanner. And this was the tricky part, was making this circuit. So for that we're going to want an ender pulsar, and that was kind of expensive to make. Ender pulsar requires 3 eyes of ender, which we can get with blaze powder and an ender pearl, and then 3 blocks of obsidian. Now that was a little expensive. It wasn't too bad, but just a little bit. Now to lay these, we're going to want tiny piles of redstone, and I usually just start off by making a cross here. Unfortunately, I have this one over here to take a look at to kind of help me remember how we do this. And on this side, I'm going to want my pulsar, and we're going to set this pulsar, if I get my screwdriver out, to about 60 ticks, which is roughly 3 seconds. And let me see where we put the little notch. It's on the outside. And it is very important that you remember to put these little notches in. And I think first I need to do this. Yes. If you right click on the edges of these like this, you can tell it, like, I'm going to read from this. And I'm going to want to read from all 3 sides. And then, I'm going to need a couple more torches. And my grid is off. Yep, the grid is off. So we're going to have to run upstairs to get that. I did add a neat little feature to my ender to help me get around. I can teleport now. There we go. I'm going to want a little bit of redstone. And let me see, I think my sticks are in here. Treated sticks. There's some sticks. And we'll talk about how I was able to upgrade the ender here in just a little bit too. And trust me on this, you're going to want these torches here. And I think I may have talked about that a little bit already. With those torches here, basically it's going to let me know if something isn't met, if one of the conditions that we're setting up isn't met correctly. There we go. And see how those are lit up? That's letting me know that we haven't met a condition somewhere. And we haven't exactly set any of them up yet, and that's all right. And then we just place our redstone conduits around like so. I may need my wrench for this. I was trying to do this without a wrench. There we go. Because what we're going to want to do on this block here is, oops, not do that. That's not what you wanted to do. I'm going to want to connect that. You can do that by right-clicking. And then once it's connected, we're going to turn this to strong signal just to make sure it gets through there. And I already know that I'm going to want my pulse color to be blue. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my pulse color. And then this is going to read a green signal. I seem to have trouble remembering that green comes right after the red for some reason. And this is going to be what sends the green signal. And then this guy is going to be brown. And brown is actually going to end up going up here. So right about here, hopefully I've got some kind of blocks to make this happen. Going to want another dropper. There's our dropper. And I'm going to break this because right there we're going to want our inventory checker. And the arrow is pointing the way we want, so I can go ahead and just bring this up. Wrench, there it is. And we can disable that part of it, and this part I'm going to want to tell it to have an in-out signal. Now over here, before we can get too far with it, I'm going to want to come over and grab some of the new seeds I've created, which are these empowered seeds. And we'll talk about this little contraption in just a moment, because we're going to want this guy, the inventory checker, to check for those empowered seeds. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a stack of those and get that in my dropper. For now, I usually fill this up with cobblestone, but I've got some dirt handy, so there we go. I basically do this to make sure that it doesn't fill up, because we're only checking this spot right here. So these spots don't really need to have the crystallized or empowered seeds in them. I did the same thing for the other dropper that has the crystallized seeds. I just kind of filled these up to make sure that they're not filling up with the wrong kind of stuff. You see, I'm hoping I've got a filter upstairs. Might have a filter in here somewhere. Doesn't really look like it. What do I need for a filter? Paper and a hopper. I should be able to do that pretty easy. Let's see. A little sugar cane and a chest. Do I have any chests? It doesn't. Oh, yeah, sure do. There we go. Just need the one, thank you. And we'll need a little bit of iron. Oh, I don't have quite enough iron. So what I'm going to do is borrow this hopper off of our resonator, since I'm not really using it at the moment. Hate those little guys. There we go. Yeah. Oh, paper. I'm basically going to need to create this filter to make sure that we're only putting the crystallized or the empowered seeds in there. So I didn't need to put a filter. Oh, I did put a filter on that one. But I want to filter these to make sure that the right seeds are going to the right place, basically. Pulse mode. I should be able to put that guy there. I do have a bucket. How convenient. Just for a minute, I'm going to put this in pulse mode so I can create the conditions that I need. There we go. Because what I'm going to want to do is borrow a bucket of this oil. Yeah. And we'll grab another one of these seeds unless I have one. Oh, I do have one. Excellent. Because basically the way we're going to get our empowered oil is to drop a seed, an empowered canola seed. May not have been in there quite right. Let's try that again. There we go. Now we've got that stuff, and I can set this to empowered oil. So this now should be sending the correct signal. Which we don't see, because that's on the red channel. We don't have a torch for the red channel, and that'll be all right. And what we're going to want to do is make sure that this is selected, and 15% is about a bucket and a half, and we're going to want that to signal on more. Now comes the tricky part. We're going to need to run some of these conduits, and what I'm going to want to do is run them like so. We're going to want to make sure that this is on insert. Now this is where I'm going to do this part a little bit different, and I'm actually going to want a drum here. And then we're going to make sure that that is on extract, always active. And this is going to insert. And what I'm going to do, I should have already crafted it, is my external storage. and I'll want the external storage on the drum. Hopefully I've got some more cables. I do. Got some grid cables over here. I know the grid isn't active right now, but once I start this up again, we'll start filling this up with some oil, with the empowered oil, and I'll basically run some buckets of that over to here to get our power started back up. Because what I'm going to do is set up an exporting system to get the oil from the drum into here. This should be ready to go at this point. I'm going to need to go and grab some food or I'm going to die. Do I have any? There's some. So I should have all this stuff hooked up. I'm going to make sure that I've got that back in deactivation mode because I want this to always run basically. Should be able to pop that back. And then there's one last little bit of redstone conduit we need to run. So we're going to want to access this guy from the bottom. We're going to do in out, and pulse color is blue. I want to make sure that I've got this set to, oh, that's right. So what we're going to need to do is force this connection because by default, if there's already liquid in a pipe, it will not connect to a pipe that does not have liquid. So we're going to force that connection. I did not set that to ground, so let's do that now. So hopefully what we'll see now is, yes. And then we will finish connecting this little guy. And we're going to want to make sure that he is set to, oh, I did that wrong. That needs to be insert. Insert on. There we go. And pulse color there. It needs to be blue. That's why it's not dropping. There we go. Now we should be getting, yes. And you, on these drums, it's best to do it with an open hand, I've discovered. Now I've got 4 buckets of oil in there, and I should be getting a decent amount of this stuff. This should continue to run. And so I've got 5 of these droppers now because I need to create at least 2 of the crystallized seeds, because now we can talk about the empowerer. The way the empowerer works is you place 4 items on these display stands, 1 item on the empowerer block itself, and you can see these laser effects are transmuting that, in this case, the crystallized seed into the empowered seed. Now the way I have this all set up is these are being automatically fed by my drawer system. So it exports from the drawers into the stand. And I have filters set up underneath it here. The stands are filtered to only accept the regular canola seeds, and the empowerer block itself is filtered to only accept the crystallized seeds. And once it turns into the empowered seed, it gets sucked into the drawer, and then it gets routed over to here, which is why I have the filters on the droppers. And now that I have hopefully a few buckets, oh yeah, that should be plenty to get us started back with the power.
Really like that paper.
And I should just be able to put a bucket right into there, and that should start our power back up. And one of these buckets is going to give us quite a bit of power. So I won't need to do a whole lot of this. And I may have just picked up some of my seeds, but that's all right. So hopefully this will get our, that's still got just a tiny bit of crystallized oil in it. So if I remember right, what we can do is take this and put it in a crafting grid to clear it out. I didn't want to waste all of that oil because I still had some things going on. So I just disconnected the pipes to let them go. There we go. I'm getting a little bit of power. Hopefully I've got enough to grab the stuff out of here that I want to get set up. Let's see if we can't get a tank. Yep. And hopefully I've got enough to get an exporter. Come back to that in a minute. So I want to make sure that on the bottom of this drum here, and I usually do this, there's no real reason to do it. Oops. But there's never a reason to do that. Open hand. Always best to use open hands to do this kind of stuff. We're going to change the item type on this to fluids. And I like to make sure, that's a white list up there. I'm going to make sure that this external storage can only deal with the oil there. Now, hopefully, if I run upstairs, what I should see in my fluid grid now, if I did this correctly, is we should see empowered oil, and we do. That'll become important later. There is a reason that I'm setting it up this way. Basically, if I want to set up a new base somewhere, I'm only going to have to craft a couple of nifty little items that will let me access my grid. Wow, that filled up fast. I'm just going to go ahead and trash these. I think I can stand to get rid of 5 seeds. I don't think that'll hurt anything. So what I'm going to do here, I've got 6 of those. Let's see where my grid's coming out at. Right there. So right here, I think is probably a good spot. Let's set that tank. Going to want a fluid conduit. We're going to set this to extract, always active. And let's see if that exporter is ready, which it is. I'm going to pop that onto my fluid tank. And again, I'm going to want to make sure that this is set to fluids while throwing my bucket, of course. And I'm going to set this to only accept empowered oil. And when I connect this, what we should see is that fluid tank filling up with that lovely purplish empowered oil. Provided, of course, we have the power to run the grid. And it's trying. It takes a little bit of work to get this set up, but there it is. And I think we just managed to get it. There we go. Yes. So that is working the way that I intend. And now, folks, we are running on empowered oil. Each one of these machines now is producing 350 RF a tick. So I've got, what, 6 of those? I should be producing roughly 2100 RF a tick. And of course, I'm using quite a bit of power, so it's not going to show quite 2100 RF a tick, but we should get pretty close to it. And the main reason, folks, believe it or not, the main reason that I needed to have all of this power is because I want to be able to automate that mana production. I am out of power in my... Wow. Used almost all of my power everywhere to make all this stuff happen. See if I can't demonstrate this now. There we go. Out here I've got my Ender farming station. I've had it set to only activate with signal, and once this activates, we should start seeing some trees getting planted. Let's run and take a nap real quick. It's telling me I don't have any seeds, and that'll be fine. I think these cows are actually climbing on top of each other to get out of there, by the way. I think that's what's happening. Could have some Endermen running around grabbing some fence posts. I have had to replace quite a few of these fencing because of Endermen stealing my blocks. Anyway, once enough of these trees are harvested, I forgot to do something here. I need to lock these, so that's why I did that. Oh, grab the wrong one. Spruce. Means I want a birch and a dark oak. There we go. Now those are locked. So it should start collecting up to 16 seeds in each quadrant. I decided I wanted a few different types of trees. So I'm going to let this cook up. I wanted to show you one other thing we've got set up here. This little drawer system, I don't have it locked for now because honestly, I'm not sure what all these trees are going to be dropping for me. I know that oak trees drop apples, and I've seen the dark oak, I think it was, drop other types of fruits. So I want to make sure I have enough room in here to collect all of the different drops I could be getting from those trees. And I do have this tied into the grid system. And then it's already past the wrapping up point for the episode, but I wanted to show you guys how this is going to work now that I have the power to do it. I'm going to want to grab these guys. I want my network receiver, my network transmitter, and I'm going to need this network card. And we're going to run out to our Botania area real quick. And somewhere in here, thinking I may just dig in, right over here is looking good. I'm going to put the network receiver. And then down here by my grid, I'm going to put the network transmitter. I think that'll probably be okay to live right there. And that right-clicking you saw me do was linking that transmitter, or that receiver to this card, which I'm going to place in here. And we'll talk about this little upgrade slot later. And you can see that it's transmitting 57 blocks. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and pop my crafting grid. And you can see now I should have access to all of the stuff, all of my different resources. And this, once I get the iron, I'm going to have to go collect a little more iron. I'll be able to run some cabling over here to grab the charcoal to pipe into here to create the red coal mana I need. And you can see I've got quite a bit of mana stored up already, so I'm not really feeding these guys right now. But I know this looks like a lot of mana. It really isn't. I'm going to need to continually generate a lot of mana to do the things that I would like to do out here. But we have the groundwork laid. We've only got a little bit more work to do. I'll need to run a few cables, and I'm going to need to set up some kind of a I haven't decided if I'm going to go with an alloy smelter, but I'll probably just use some kind of a powered furnace. We have quite a few choices for that. I might go with actually additions or an extra utilities furnace. But basically, I'm going to want something to automatically dump this wood that I'm growing into. No, that's right. We'll need to create an axe for this. And I've got a special plan for that. I'll cover that in the next episode. Basically, everyone knows that you're going to have to replace those axes in those farming stations, just like any other tool would break. But there is a special kind of a tool that we're going to be able to make that won't break. And I'll teach you guys how to make that in the next episode. But we got a lot done today. We are running on empowered oil. We've got access to the grid system out here in our Britannia area. We set up the tree farm. We got a lot done today, guys. So, this is Darth Scooter signing off. Thanks for watching the episode. I hope you're enjoying the series. Be sure to leave a like if you're enjoying the episodes, and subscribe to the channel if you want to watch or if you want to be notified of videos that I put out in the future. Thanks again for stopping by today, and take care.